It's the breaking story this afternoon. Former Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula is the new Speaker of the National Assembly. She was voted in after a secret ballot. Our reporter Lindsay Dentlinger is outside Parliament for us and was watching proceedings earlier today. Lindsay, thank you for coming through once again. Mapisa-Nqakula made her first speech as Speaker this afternoon.
She did, Clement. It was pretty much a shoe-in and a fait accompli that she would be voted in the sixth Speaker of the National Assembly, although not without competition. The DA putting up Annalie Lotriet, their caucus chairperson, to stand against Mapisa-Nqakula. But in the end, the numbers were in her favour, and in accepting that nomination and ultimately taking the seat as the new Speaker of the National Assembly, Mapisa-Nqakula saying she would work well with the opposition parties, despite their misgivings about her being elected this afternoon, that she wanted to forge better cooperation between them. She said that there were matters of national importance that they shared an interest in resolving, and she would want to work together with them. And she said she also didn't take the integrity of this House lightly, despite facing allegations of impropriety herself and being investigated right here in Parliament for matters related to her tenure as Defence Minister. The new Speaker said that accountability and oversight, she recognised the importance. She wanted to elevate the status of accountability and oversight here in Parliament, especially now during the pandemic, during a time where Parliament has had to find new ways of conducting its work and not to be found wanting in terms of oversight and accountability, for which they have been lambasted in the past, more recently before the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. So Mapisa-Nqakula saying she didn't take this office lightly, and she was going to do everything in her power to ensure the integrity of this august House is upheld. But let's take a listen to her first words that she gave to the House this afternoon upon taking up that all-important seat in the legislature.
This is particularly an emotional occasion for me. Seated amongst you in those benches during the proceedings and the elections, I sincerely felt humbled to have been nominated as a candidate for the position of Speaker of this august House. I also felt great pride, both as a member of this House and as a South African, observing the exercise of democracy during these proceedings, with all parties, big and small, fully utilizing the opportunity and space to nominate and vote freely for candidates of their choice for the position of Speaker. It is upon this foundation that Parliament has continued to stand as the foremost custodian and protector of our democracy. It is important that this foundation of true democratic participation should never be compromised, not for personal whim or for narrow party political interest. All our people, represented wholly by the members deployed from various parties in this Parliament, should always feel comfortable that all their interests, however diverse, will have due consideration here and have the confidence in Parliament's role as the last line in the defence of our hard-earned democracy.
Well, Lindsay, there's been some resistance to her nomination, some resistance even to her elections, and some of those that rejected her nomination were political parties in Parliament, and you spoke to some of them.
Yes, Clement, I think you're being rather modest to say some objection to her appointment. I think it was very clear this afternoon across opposition benches that none of them thought that she was fit for this job. The DA, as I mentioned earlier, putting up their own candidate, offering an alternative to Mapisa-Nqakula. The EFF abandoning Parliament altogether, indicating yesterday already that they did not approve of the swap being made by President Cyril Ramaphosa, and so they did not show up to cast a vote. And then, of course, there are 17 spoiled ballots amongst the 298 votes that were cast this afternoon, Clement, possibly an indication that from within her own party even, not everybody felt that she was the fit and proper person for this job. And certainly opposition parties that I spoke to on the steps of Parliament when proceedings ended a little more than an hour ago, that they did not believe that she was a person of the kind of integrity that is required hold such an all-important job as the Speaker. As I mentioned, she is facing an investigation here in Parliament itself related to allegations made while she was the Defence Minister, and it is very likely that that report is going to be tabled in the House in the coming weeks, and that Mapisa-Nqakula might have to step away and let her deputy preside over proceedings, however that investigation turns out. And so already she starts her new job already on the back foot, facing these allegations, facing an investigation here in Parliament. And of course opposition parties just do not think that that is good enough to start a new tenure as Speaker. Here the views of the main opposition, the DA, and also of the Freedom Front Plus.
Well, there definitely will be conflicts of interest. That's a given. I mean, it's not if they are conflicts, they are conflicts of interest. So I foresee it playing out like this. I foresee her either having to take special leave or being suspended by Parliament while she's investigated, and the Deputy Speaker having to become the acting Speaker as he's been for the last couple of weeks. What you're seeing here is a clear ANC factional battle being played out at the expense of Parliament, and you're going to see chaos in the House, which is exactly what this factional battle wants, because the more factional battles, the more chaos there is in the House, the less we are able to hold ministers to account. And that is exactly what Judge Zondo said the problem was, is that we weren't, as Parliament, holding the executive to account.
We, from the start, opposed the nomination. And in her speech now, she just referred to say that we must protect the integrity of the House. The irony is that she, by sitting in that chair, is violating the integrity of the House, because when she was the minister, she misused the position by taking members of the Executive Council from the ANC to Zimbabwe on taxpayers' money and the military plane. So I didn't hear anything of I will be impartial, I will protect the rights of all political parties because I am the Speaker now. That's what I wanted to hear. But I think it sums it quite well. When she was nominated and the Judge President was asked whether she accepts the nomination, not far from my side sits the Minister of Police, and he said, within the interjection, she has no option.
Well, Lindsay, she has extended her hand of cooperation. Based on the conversations you've had with opposition parties, are they taking that hand? Are they willing to work with her?
Most certainly, Clement, you know, despite what they feel about her personally, her reputation that precedes her, they are not going to close the door on her. They are going to accept that olive branch. They have indicated to me that they will meet her halfway. They certainly have issues that they want to put on the table before her, that they want considered their own party interests, that they, in the form of, for example, private members' bills, that they want considered. So certainly they're not going to close the door on her. They most importantly want to see her ensure that this process that Parliament has started to investigate the unrest, the riots in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng of last month, that inquiry runs its course, even though, you know, she was the Defence Minister responsible for the deployment of those soldiers during that unrest, and so they don't want her to scupper any of those investigations because they might, find adversely against her during her tenure as Defence Minister. So they are hoping that she is going to follow through with investigations, inquiries, matters already before the House, and so despite what they feel about her this evening, Clement, they are not likely to close the door on her. They are going to give her a hearing, and I think they're going to hope that she holds and keeps to her word that she wants to engage, cooperate better with opposition parties, particularly on matters of national interest.
Lindsay Dentlinger, thank you so much.